Hi, Liv.
Hi, Scotty.
It is so good to see you. Your hair looks really beautiful, by the way.
Thank you very much. I
Your
did some
color?
changes. I did. Yeah, indeed.
It looks
Thank you.
great. It looks
I
great. It's
appreciate that.
the perfect color for summer in California.
Yeah, definitely feeling that brightness and warmth.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So, but as hair color aside, I am so excited to chat with you today because there's something that a lot of people may not know. When they see you in our videos and they see you in our stories, they may just see this fabulous car reviewer and not realize that you bring a different approach to every car that you review. Why is that?
Well, I am an adaptive driver. I was injured in a bombing when I was 16, working my first job at a pizzeria in South Africa, which is where I'm from. And I lost my leg that day, and I lost my right leg, and my left leg was injured. So when I learned how to drive, because in South Africa you drive at 18, so when I learned how to drive, it was adaptively. Initially, I tried driving with my prosthesis, which did not prove to be the right decision. So I learned how to drive with my left leg, which is unusual, I'm sure, but I'm finding through creating content, sharing on a girl's guide, and with the world at large, I'm finding that there are a lot more people that drive adaptively or have something, whether it's in the magnitude of missing a limb and driving with their left leg, or driving just with their hands, or even just like someone who has a foot difference in some way. There's such a variable. Like, the assumption that everyone is an able-bodied driver is not actually true. And also, ability changes. So when someone is an able-bodied driver right now, they might experience at some point in their life that that's not the case, whether that's from age or disability. So I'm really finding that it's more common than I thought.
And it,
Yeah.
it's important to us, to everybody who is not the average. I kind of joke, like, who is the average male driver? Because really, nobody is actually average. We're all a little different, and average is sort of the middle of that, right? And those of us who not only are not average, but also have to bring some other challenge to the equation. It used to be that if you had a disability or a severe injury or something, you're kind of housebound. Like, you would lose your freedom, you would lose your independence, you would lose your ability to go places and do things. And the whole world's taking place out there, and you're stuck here. And it's not like that anymore, is it?
It's not. It's not at all. And that freedom goes hand in hand with so much, because it's also access to the most basic mobility devices. If I didn't have the prosthetic that I do and the Exxon prosthetic care, then I wouldn't have the freedom to walk, to stand. And if I didn't have access to vehicles which allow me the adaptation that I need, which is driving cross-legged, then I would not have the freedom of movement and the freedom of mobility. And so on a micro level, the freedom of mobility, simply just to get up in the morning and move yourself to your place of work, move yourself to the grocery store, take care of your family, is seems like the most base level of freedom that you need, but that can be taken from someone. And so the freedom of mobility with cars and that stuff that we cover, it's incredibly empowering. It really is incredibly empowering. Yeah.
And I'm going to say, I'm so grateful to you for being as open with the topic as you are, because it's very personal. And I'm sure there's been a lot of pain in your life because of this, something that, just happened, random, this, split second, and your life changes forever. You've made such an you've built such an incredible life and such an incredible story. And in such admiration. I'm actually kind of getting chills right now thinking about
Aw.
how much I admire you and your journey. But what I am really even more admire even more is the journey that you're going to discover in this conversation today, which is the focus of our podcast. Liv actually is our podcast host for this episode. Liv, tell us about your guest.
This was I say it at the end of the interview. It was a delight beyond words, and it's a packed podcast, an hour long of just the most inspirational, like those one word quotes that like define your life and give you power. It's like a whole hour of that. The person I spoke with was Torsten Gross, and he is he's a marketing specialist. He's a rescue scuba diver. He's a mountain biker. He's done 12 marathons in 1 year. Sorry, 12 marathons in one. Wow. No. Maybe it's 12 years. Sorry, but like a lot of marathons. Probably 12 years. That would be a lot.
Okay. He's a quadriplegic and
he's a quadriplegic. Yeah. So he is an incredibly inspirational person just by nature. And when in his early 40s, his wife gave him the gift of I think it's called an HDPE, a high, it's basically a performance driving day. And so he lives near Lime Rock in Connecticut. So he went for his performance day driving. Absolutely, he drives. He has the freedom to drive. It wasn't even, a consideration. This guy is an adrenaline junkie, and so he goes for the performance day. Immediately became hooked. Within 4 months of that day, well, I'm not going to spoil things.
Yeah,
but like I won't spoil it. But like, this gives you a little clue of what this guy is like. And the moment he got hooked, he didn't just then get into the world of professional driving. He got everyone else into it too. And so this conversation that I have with him it's just so exciting and exhilarating. And I think that like one of the really cool things and the ways that I really vibe with him is that I so appreciate you saying such kind of things that I would like. My story or his story is such an inspiration, but I think I at least don't set out to inspire people, because this is the reality of my life. So like living adaptively is not the first thing I think about every day. I think about, what do I want to do? What do I want to accomplish? And so when I talk to Torsten, I see that same thing with him, is that he's not thinking like, I necessarily want to prove myself first. There's definitely that. And this dude is a rebel, but he's thinking like, I want to drive. I want to accomplish this. This is what I'm going to do. And in all honesty, I want to beat people. And so there's this Amazon Prime series that details Torsten's exploration as he goes from a brand new track performance driver to a competitive driver within a ridiculously short space of time. And the really amazing thing is that the fact that he's a quadriplegic and drives just with his hands is secondary to the fact in a way that he's an amazing driver. And he has the statement, like one of those amazing, statements that you put on your wall, which is like, motorsports is the only sport that makes everyone equal. And it's so true, because if you do, like, you see him hand cycling, and I've done CrossFit. And if I compete in the CrossFit Open, it's on my own, or in a separate category. If you're in biking, you're in a separate category. Or like, there's so many sports where if you're adaptive, you're in a separate category. But when you're behind the wheel of a car, the car is the equalizer. You just need the adaptation, whatever it is, to get behind that wheel. And Torsten has this other saying that everyone has a wheelchair. So like, everyone actually has something that might be seen to hold them back a little, but with the right adaptation, then you're equal. Like we just need that. And so I have chills thinking about everything I learned from Torsten and how exciting this was. So I encourage people to watch his documentary, which is an
and bring the tissues untold.
Oh yes,
some teary moments.
And notepad, because they're gems. They're gems. And also be prepared for swear words. But he doesn't swear with us. I was very impressed.
Swear word. Okay. There is a warning then. We'll put a little warning box. Swear
in the
word.
Amazon Prime show, but he doesn't swear with us. Not on the podcast.
I don't really care. We are a family friendly podcast, but I guess language is, anyway, fair game. All right.
Fair
so with that, let's go to Liv's interview with Torsten Gross.
Well, Torsten, so great to be chatting with you today. Thank you so much for taking the time. So you are a marketing strategist. You are a race car driver, mountain biker. You're a rescue scuba diver, an adrenaline sports junkie, and you are also a quadriplegic. What?
What? No one told me.
That is
indeed,
an amazing combo. Torsten, you have an incredible story, and it is now being told on a brand new Amazon Prime series that just premiered, a docu-series that follows your exploration as you become a competitive race car driver. That's an incredible story, and I feel like you need to tell us a little bit about you and how you got into this driving. Just a bit.
Whoa, that's a big question right there. I'll start with me first, I guess, a little bit to give context, because I don't know if everybody knows what a quadriplegic is. I think there's a misconception that quadriplegic is like what Christopher Reeve was, meaning no arms whatsoever. Quad actually means 4 limbs compromised. So 1, 2. So I've no use of my left-hand fingers and very little on my right, and then 3, 4 being my legs. Right, so I've limited use, compromised use of 4 limbs, and so that's quadriplegic. I became a quad when I was 15. I dove into the ocean in the Bahamas, broke my neck, drowned. I was dead for 2.5 minutes, and best day of my life, which I know shocks most people, but it actually was. And so that happened in 7/11/94. So that's now 1, 2, 3, long time ago. Right, that's 30 plus years ago. And now if your listeners are doing the math, I was 15. So a long time ago. So yeah, been in the chair for 31 years.
Now, I don't know about you, but I should share that Torsten and I have somewhat of a similar starting story. When I was 16, I was injured in a bombing. I didn't tell Torsten this part, so you're all learning about this. And I lost my right leg. And I actually celebrate that day every year because it was a day that could have ended my life, but instead I got to survive and live on. So I wonder, do you celebrate the anniversary of your injury?
7/11/94 is my rebirth day, and we actually celebrate that every year. So I 100% like you. It's just I think we mourn these things. A lot of people mourn these things on our behalf. When it's like, yeah, but why? And if I may for a minute, my talking point is always, I think everybody's got a wheelchair. And what I mean by that is whether you have depression or PTSD or Tourette's, or you lost a child or whatever, that is that thing that you believe holds you back, right? And so mine happens to be visible, but everybody's got something, right? But ours happens to be on a day that is specific versus, so we have the thing that people mourn that day. But if you have depression or PTSD, those things increase over time. There's no specific day to that, so people tend not to mourn it the same way. And number 2, people just don't think depression is real, which, by the way, you're a jerk if you think that, but people don't, right? And they don't believe the severity of depression. So, or Tourette's or whatever, and that's even worse. So I mourn that more than I would, my injury, right? Like it was a good day. It was it made my life where I am today. So I have no problem with that.
Wow, that is amazing. And it's so true. And I've often thought about that it's almost a luxury having a visible disability. And especially in my case, I can sort of hide it. I have a prosthesis. I do have burns and scars, so I also have limited usage of one of my hands. But for the most part, I can hide it at will or show it. And there's a luxury to that because I have the proof of disability. But those invisible disabilities are just as valid. I tend to believe that everyone has a life day or a day that impacts their life or changes it greatly. But I love how you say that, like everyone has a wheelchair, in that like we all have something that requires a little adaptation. And
The
I
difference is
think
for you, by the way, you just do it for the parking spot. Let's be really clear, right? Like you do it for the parking. Yeah, let's not tell anyone that. Don't. We can cut this out. But that's what you,
it's all the
just
parking.
us two,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
Okay,
totally.
just for the parking
Absolutely.
spot. You know,
That's it. That primo parking right there.
primo parking. Yeah.
But yeah, you're totally right that and you say this in the show. And by the way, I have to say, if anyone's watching, listening, go watch the show. I say show, but it's a docu-series. Go watch your production, your creation on Amazon Prime. And we're gonna have lots of spoilers probably because I want to ask you all sorts of things. But it's so good and it's so introspective, and that thought that everyone has a wheelchair, and the idea that we all sort of require an adaptation, and I think it's our job to find what that adaptation is in our lives, because it allows us the freedom to do more things, right? And this could be simply if we have anxiety, which I do, and difficulty facing some things, you might have an adaptation that makes it easier for you to face. And then the series, you faced like some of the ultimate challenges and you found some incredible adaptations. So firstly, you're a quadriplegic and you got into racing thanks to your wife Maggie, am I right? Um,
Indeed, it's all
what?
her fault.
It's all
It's
her
all her
fault.
fault.
She has so much good things to be blamed for, clearly.
So
So
much.
so she gives you a anniversary. Was it your 12th anniversary?
It's something around there. Yeah.
So a very, very long anniversary present of your first track day. And correct me if I'm wrong, were you 43 when that
42, 43 around there.
42? So you would expect like you would just go to a track day and have a great time. But no, Torsten takes this on as a new life challenge. Um, this is not new to you, facing challenges, but I do want to just focus on that. I mean, were you addicted immediately on your first track day?
The interesting part, the thing I'll say, which always comes off somewhat braggadocious, and I don't mean to, I just want to set the stage, and that is I'm the world's only quadriplegic that's a rescue scuba diver. I did 12 marathons in 12 months. I skydive, but none of them make me equal to able-bodied people. I'm always only competing in a disabled division. I'll never do a marathon with an able-bodied person. I'll never do ski with an able-bodied person in the same division. I'll never do things in the same, play basketball in the same division. But being on track, when I experienced that for the first time, it was a moment where I went, the car, the tool, didn't care that I was in a chair. And no one on the track knew that I was in a chair. And the profoundness of that put together was basically, well, I can go do this and I can be competitive and I can go destroy my friends. You know, I can destroy anybody. That's great versus just a subset of people, which also is okay. But there's something freeing, something amazing, something profound in the idea that no matter who it is, I can beat them, right? And the same thing for a woman, the same thing for black or gay, or I don't care who you are. The car is an equalizer. And that to me was so profound that when I came home, I said, baby, we're buying a race car. And unfortunately for her, she has come to understand that when I find a passion that it's to me, it's not a slope, it's a cliff. I just go from where I don't know about this to this is now a thing, and it became a thing.
Dang, it became a thing really, really quickly. Um, that's incredible. And I mean, I totally get what you're saying. Like, obviously, I've been an active amputee, as I would call it, and I've done CrossFit and cycling, and it's always you in your own class. So like CrossFit, there's the CrossFit Open, but then I'd be in the adaptive class, and I'd be the only one competing in that level in my gym, and it just feels you kind of feeling like a little bit less than. And I don't think about the challenges I'm facing necessarily first and foremost when I wake up in the morning, but I know that other people do because they see that about us. But like I forget because this is me. And so I wonder if that's something you share in that like you just want that equality. And like
Uh,
obviously you're in a wheelchair, you deal with this every day. Um, you act as an inspiration for other people, but really for you, do you just want to be equal?
well, I would politely disagree and say that I think you believe that about yourself. I believe that about myself. But wheelchair or not, there are just so many people that don't have the confidence and to try new things, right? And so to me, confidence comes on the other side of trying. You can't be confident if you have not tried. And my bracelet actually says courage over confidence. Like you
Oh,
just need to have the courage to do that. And this was given to me by a sports psychologist, and he said it better than I did. But to me, I'd always said courage, that confidence comes on the other side of trying, because how can you have confidence if you haven't tried it? And it's because in our society we villainize failure,
mm,
and that's weird. I love failing. I'm the biggest failure you ever meet, and I mean that because I just want to try, and I'm going to fail. And to me, it's about realizing that the thing that you think you're about to do, the thought of it is always worse than the actual thing. The anticipation is what kills. The process is what doesn't kill. And then you kind of go, well, that was fairly simple. I mean, I failed, but like the thing wasn't as scary as I thought it would be when I was up at 3 a.m. dreaming about the thing that I'm going to do at 9 a.m. Like, oh my God, I made it into the monster under my bed. Like, how horrible. And then you realize the anticipation was worse than the actual thing that you wanted to do. And so, in order to overcome that moment, I think it takes courage, not confidence. It takes the trying to do it, and your expectation should always be failure. Because if your expectation is failure, then you can't fail, right? Like, then you just can't fail. So my expectation is rather always failure, at least when I do something really new. And then go, well, I succeeded.
that,
Cool. Now
that's
let's move on. Does
amazing.
that make sense?
Oh, 100%. Yeah. And I've experienced that too, especially going through medical procedures, the fear and anticipation of something. And something I really resonate with in your story is that when you become someone who has a disability, easy things become things you have to plan for much more, right? Things that were as simple as in your case, as you share, putting on your socks become something that takes much more planning. So
Yep.
we get used to that anticipation. But in your case now, with the racing and the failure, the repercussions of your failure are a little more severe than some other things. How do you handle that?
Look, so what you're referring to and what is in the promo, what we can talk about is for those who have not seen the show yet, I went into a wall at 60 miles an hour sideways, broke my femur, broke 3 ribs, and punctured my lung. The reality is had that happened in a streetcar, I'd be dead. And that's because cars are hyper safe, but granted, first off, you're never going that fast into a barrier anyway, right? Like I was in a very specific scenario that you're not in normally, right? Like it's a race scenario. Um, and I was practicing, I was doing something new, and I went over the edge, like, figuratively speaking, and I crashed. All in all, though, if you actually look at the numbers, motorsports is exponentially safer than skiing and a ton of other sports because we're geared, well, figuratively and literally, to be safe, right? Like everything from our head and neck restraints to our 6-point harnesses to the helmets that have been upgraded every year, for safety, to the car. Cars are perfect things that keep us safe. Yes, there are always the outliers. I understand that, sure. Like in life, there are always the outliers. But all things being said, cars are so safe. So I just managed to, I managed to meet the expectations of me in life where if I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it well. So if I'm going to crash, I'm going to destroy my body. And I did it. But it was something though, Liv, that there are two types of drivers. There's ones that have crashed and ones that will, race car drivers. I've not checked that box. I've since had a couple other, we'll bang doors or we'll tap walls, but nothing as drastic as that. But those are the average incidents, if you will, right? You'll scrape a wall or whatever. But again, it's nothing big, right? It's small. Skiing, you have nothing around you. Yeah. Whomever can text me all they want and go, well, I'm wearing a helmet. I'm like, sure. I have a cage around me. I have a seat developed to keep me safe. I have a harness developed to keep me safe, keep everybody safe. So look, it's not without risk, but I do also have to say that I think that Hollywood has sensationalized the idea of, and Formula One and NASCAR has sensationalized the crash. But if you look at crashes, I mean, people walk away from them 99% of the time. But we only concentrate on the ones where it's a Robbie Wickens or a Sam Schmidt where there's actual paralysis that's happened. So all in all, it's safe. Now I could say that, and then things will happen. I don't do things that are necessarily safe all the time, but I also feel like why live to 150 when 100 or 80 is good enough. Even 60 is good enough, right? If you're living a life well lived.
That's certainly fair. I mean, you said something earlier. You said that it takes courage to do this stuff, and I do think that clearly, like, you have that in spades. I am far more risk averse, and the thought of tearing across the track at 150 miles an hour by itself is very intimidating and scary. But you went through a crash on, what was it, your second race, and
Oh, I hadn't
then
even raced yet. The race was going to happen the week after. This was in preparation for a race. I was practicing going 3 wide, so 3 cars wide into a turn, and I didn't realize on slicks how dirty the outside of the turn was at the end of that day, and it pushed me onto the grass. And once you get on the grass, your car actually accelerates because you no longer have the friction of the wheels to slow down the car. So the momentum of the weight is already pushing the car, but it's being held back by the tires. The moment you remove the tire from the equation, from holding that back from the friction of the asphalt, the inertia just kicks in. So we actually sped up, which was fun. But I do need to amend though a principle here, and that is I didn't start by going that fast. You start with track days. We don't allow novices to go full send, to go full tilt. We teach them the line. We teach them the slow version of it. Yeah, it's faster than highway speeds for sure. But I'm an instructor now, right? I'll never let you go 120, 150 miles an hour over my dead body. I'm sitting in the car. You do you if you want to do that, but not with me in the car, right? Because I want to teach you how it's done properly. Now we can slowly start to add in speed. But with speed comes confidence, because now I've had the courage to try. I've now realized that it works. I now have the confidence to go 5 miles faster, and then 5 miles, and then 5 miles. So it doesn't go from one day to another, right? And so I can understand why you would say you might be risk averse to doing that. My response would be, I want you to come visit, because I wouldn't let you do that. I would teach you step by step how to get there. You then nail one corner, and I'm going to hear it through the helmet, through the microphone. You don't even have to say anything. You're going to chuckle, because you're going to feel that moment. You're going to be like, oh, that was cool. You're going to feel it, right? And then we're going to nail another turn. I'm going to be like, Liv, hell yeah, you nailed that turn. Now let's do those 2 turns a little bit faster, right? It's all about getting you there, right? We're not starting there. So I don't care if you're risk averse or not. I'm going to make you love it.
I think that this is an amazing indication of something really special about you that is clear. So most people, a lot of people, we find something we like and we really enjoy, and we do it more because we like it. So you found racing and motorsports, and within like 4 months starting it, your first thought was to share it with other people. And like what you've just done here is such a wonderful, inclusive thing, inviting and encouraging and supporting me in doing something like this. And so 4 months after your very first track day, you founded Just Hands, which is a foundation that helps other wheelchair users get behind the wheel of performance cars. I mean, who does that? That's pretty incredible. Um, how did this
Well,
happen?
Liv, I have had such a fortunate life where people have been there to support me to do marathoning and racing, wheelchair racing, there are foundations that do skiing, that do all these things, because if I may, there's something called, that I've at least called, the wheelchair tax. And the wheelchair tax is, or the disability tax, uh, if an able-bodied person wants to go do a marathon, they buy $80 marathon shoes, they walk out their front door and they start training. I have to buy a $2,000, $3,000, $5,000 marathon chair. If they want to go play basketball, they get $100 basketball, they get $70 basketball shoes, they go to the public court and they start playing basketball. We buy a $4,000 basketball chair. Skiing, you have $120 season rental for skis, right? For able-bodied people. We can't. $5,000 at minimum monoski. So that's the wheelchair tax, right? The disability tax. The fact that it's not simple to try something. I've been so fortunate, Liv, to have people, have foundations, have all the support system around me that has allowed me to do that. Well, that really doesn't exist inside motorsports, and that tax is exponentially higher. And I'm in a very grateful, very fortunate, very lucky position to be able to give back. And to me, a passion isn't something you do yourself, but you're obliged to share it with others. Like, it's just you have to share it with others. It's criminal if you don't. And so when I had this feeling that I had, this amazing moment of feeling both equal and free and all that behind the wheel, that's when I was like, well, this can't just be for me. It just can't. And I needed to share it. So that's when I went home and I said to my wife, we're buying another track car. And she said, no. And I said, well, no, this one's not going to be for me to drive. And she goes, even more no. And then I said, well, we're going to start a foundation, and we made it a charitable thing. And so that's how we got here.
That is amazing. And it's so, I have to laugh. By the way, I have a big plastic leg shaped thing on my bed right now, so that I can go kayaking without getting my prosthesis wet. So I just found this thing that like suctions on top of my prosthesis and bought it on eBay, and I don't know if it's going to work. So when you say disability tax and everything becoming more complicated, I'm just thinking about even that weird plastic thing that's sitting on my bed that I really hope works, that I shelled out some cash on. And the impact of what you're contributing to people I mean, it must feel absolutely incredible. And I know you said in the series at one point that you get to relive the excitement of your first time racing when you see people do these things that they'd never expect, when you hear that chuckle. That
Yeah.
I feel like I'd have a tear in my eye every single day.
It's incredible. We have so many people who have gone through our program once and bought a track car. Right. So the number is something like we had 60 drivers last year, 20 of them bought track cars. When's the last time you did something once and then you spent 5, 10, 15, 20, 50, $80,000 to do it again? No, but that's how
Never.
profound this is, right? That's how profound this is. That people did it with us once and they were like, I got to do this again. I got to do this again. Now, to be clear, there are going to be able-bodied people out there that say, well, HPDEs, which are high performance driver education days, it's basically code for take your own car out onto a track. And legally, anyone can take their car, as long as it's street legal, out onto a track with an organization like BMW Club or SCCA or SCDA. You can all do that. Fine. Why can't we? We have cars too and we can drive. Well, the reason why we as disabled are reticent to do it and why the foundation has a purpose instead of just using your own car, because I used my own car for the first time. The problem is we don't have good back muscles, right? And leg muscles. So that means that we can't hold ourselves into the seat really well. So a 3-point harness isn't going to hold you in on the G-forces going around a turn like that. So you need 6-point harnesses and a race seat. So if something happens to your car, most people can just go to somebody else and say, can I borrow your car? Mine's in the shop. For us, it's a little bit more involved to get a hand-controlled car. You can get it from Hertz and Avis, but it takes a whole lot longer and it isn't perfect. And so people in chairs are exponentially more reticent to take their cars out onto a track like an able-bodied person would. And yet again, why I felt the need to start this, right? And can I share a story
Please.
so when I started this, I thought I was just making people go fast and yay, we're on the track. The third or fourth driver was there with his wife, 9-year-old son, and around 4-year-old daughter. And the husband was on the track, and the wife comes up to me and says, with tears in her eyes, she says, when my husband got paralyzed, my son started treating him differently because sons look at their fathers as heroes. And it was very obvious that my son lost a hero because his dad is now in a wheelchair. Now my son is running after my husband saying, I want to be like daddy. I want to be a race car driver. And as she hugs me, she says, you brought back hero to my husband. And I'm like, I'm not crying. You're crying. Like, that's that moment where I never understood. I just thought I was making people go fast and have fun on the track. I never understood that it is such a big feat, to do what we do, at least from a perception perspective, that I'm changing the relationship between a father and son and between relatives who didn't think that their relative being in a chair could do much. That to me is still humbling. It's profound. It's weird, right? Because I don't realize how big of how monumental of a thing it is. So it's still very awkward for me because I just want them to have fun. And I realize, wow, it's bigger than that. And so there are moments like that where I realize they might only do this once or twice or a couple more times. They might not become a race car driver, just a performance driver, but the freedom of wheels, the freedom of being on track, what it symbolizes to their family is big.
That is That's huge. Thank you so much for sharing that story. That's incredible. And I I mean, I think we all have a sphere of influence, right? And everything that we go through can't be gone through alone. And everything that we put out in the world has ripple effect. And the effect that you're having, it's incredible that you get to see those ripples, right? Because you see it straight, the stone that drops in the pond, right? You see people having that exhilaration and incredible time, but then the ripple effect, that must be I'm really, really happy that you did this. I'm so happy that Maggie got you that present because you're definitely doing something incredible in the world. And there's an article on a girlsguide to cars.com by one of my co-writers, Kimberly. Amazing article. She got to be there with you at the premiere of your event. In remind me where it was.
Is in Canaan, Connecticut, in Northwest Connecticut.
In Northwest Connecticut. And something that she said, I think was in her article, she mentioned that that you said that they've even made some of the facilities at tracks accessible just from you having been there. So that's a ripple. Just from you having, like, the stone of you getting into motorsports has rippled into like making the tracks more accessible for other people. Whoa.
It's funny. I got a text from the owner of Lime Rock during a winter one winter a couple winters ago, and the whole concession stand was destroyed, was being taken apart, and he wrote something like, "You did this," and I'm like, I did what? And he's like, we're making it more accessible. And why I love that, and I'm truncating that conversation, obviously, right? But it was essentially that. And why that meant a lot is most of the times corporations take a lawsuit to change something, or they take some type of protest or some type of big thing to change, because while we like to always say it's about money, and we are a working class as well, we are a paying class, it's not that big of a margin, right? Like it's good, it's big, but there are unfortunately other priorities that on a balance sheet would make more sense financially to go do than make something accessible. And this is coming said from a guy who is in a wheelchair, right? But the leadership team at Lime Rock understood that it's not about that, right? It's about something far bigger than that, and that they just wanted to make it accessible, and they continue to do that. And for Lime Rock Park to have done that for us was, I mean, I'm still in debt and grateful to them, and they treat us so well. They gave us 2 parking spots. No one gets parking spots there. We have our own 2 parking spots. Then Palmer, a track near us, right, like in Massachusetts. Palmer, we got there one day only to see them putting pile driving stakes in the ground to put a ramp to go into the classroom. Again, we didn't ask. We had just been showing up, and they said, "Well, it's not accessible. We need to change that." It's humbling again too, and it's not just me, right? Like we're all getting out there now, and they're seeing it. But I got to say this, that I don't hold it against people really on old architecture, because there was no reason to make it accessible at the time, right? And we aren't seen at racetracks because we haven't been there, right? 1 or 2 people have been there, but not in great numbers. So there was no reason for them to change that. I kind of understand that, and I guarantee I'll get hate mail for saying that. But like, the thing is real. If you can't see it, you can't be it. But if you can't see it, you can't change it either. And they're starting to see it, and they're changing it, and that to me is progress, right? That I love when people do that. So I will never villainize them for not having something accessible. I'm to the other side, so grateful and humbled that they are. That means the world to me.
I mean, that makes so much sense, really, and I can agree with that, because we don't know things that we don't know, right? And why would anyone imagine what it's like to be in a wheelchair or to be missing a leg unless they realize that that's a thing, right? And unless that's presented to them in life. And I think it really goes back to also how you didn't realize that racing was even a possibility for you because you didn't see this representation. You didn't see yourself there. Like we don't even see ourselves in these situations. What is it? You said, like, if you can't see it, you can't be it.
If you can't see it, you can't be it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So, you are creating visibility and representation for so many people. And it makes me think of, I think it's the 4 minute mile. Like, no one broke the 4 minute mile. They thought that it was humanly impossible until finally it was like in the 50s, I think one guy broke it and then a bunch of other people did because it was finally proven that it's possible. And then you have this permission of like, wait, I can do that.
Hmm.
Like, it's possible. So I'm betting that you're going to just see tons of adaptive drivers in sports now, in motorsports. And that's all your fault.
And I need to be clear. They better not be faster than me. All right. So like I am the only dude in the chair. I'm like, it's going to be cripple on cripple fighting if they are faster than me. We're going to put broomsticks in our hands and we're going to do wheelchair jousting. If they are faster than me, that's what's going to happen. Like I'm not going to take that. I better be the fastest.
I'm stuck on the wheelchair jousting now, because if you could make that a thing,
Oh, that'd be
that would be
so much
amazing.
fun. So much
I
fun.
think that
I
might
think
have
I
to
think
happen.
what you just said though about the amputee thing too, like I keep coming back to we park in the same parking spots, but I have no idea what it's like to be an amputee, right? And the idea of disability in our society is an awkward one because disability is a catch-all for just not normal. And so when you
Okay.
say, well, you make things accessible, I'm like, well, for deaf, for blind, for amputee is different than even if you lined up all people in chairs. Quadriplegia is different than paraplegia, then different than spina bifida, then different than cerebral palsy. I don't know anything about cerebral palsy and spina bifida, right? Like I don't know what they do. I sure as hell don't know what amputee the pros and cons are, right? So imagine developing things for accessibility and disability, how difficult that is because the sphere adding in deaf and blind, and then things that I'm not even mentioning right now, right? Like I don't
Yeah.
even know things, right? Neurodivergence, I don't even know if that's real or like how to say that. Like it's so big. Um,
Yeah.
that it's a very hard topic, and I can understand societally why we're so scared of it because there's no definition to it, and it could still happen to you, right? Like you can't become gay, you can't become black, you can't become a woman, but you can become an amputee, you can become quadriplegic, right? Like it's still a scary thing. That's why I'm hoping that in the racing world, all I ask is that you don't judge me on how I do something, you judge me on the outcome, right? That's all I
Yeah.
ever ask, right? And by the way, remove disability and put in any marginalized group, black or gay or woman, right? Like the same systemic issues hit there as well. And then you put two white dudes next to each other. They could also be different too because you don't know what their past is. You don't know where they come from. You don't know what they've experienced. And just because they fit the archetype of, even rich white guy, right? Like you don't know the archetype that they've been through or what they've been through in their past. There might be limitations there. So all I hope is that we have some empathy for each other where it's kind of like you don't know the demons that exist or the things that exist inside everyone and go, well, how do you do things? Because I'll tell you how I do mine.
Yeah, you're totally right. And I mean, like you say, we all have our wheelchairs.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
as you're describing it, like, it makes me think of hotel rooms, because oftentimes if I'm booking a hotel room as an amputee, I don't require a lot of adaptation. I just need like a bathtub. But if I request a handicap room, I get one that has braille, that has bars, that is extra spacious for a wheelchair. And I'm like, I'm crawling. I actually don't want extra spacious. But like, how do you know that? How do you accommodate for this? And it's just like this catch-all of, this is the handicap room. And it's really interesting to see how they address all things and how much harder that can make it to address some of the other things. But you are right that it's good to see people trying, because I think there can be a fear of getting it wrong or upsetting someone. So us as people with disabilities and having the opportunity to even talk like this, I'm so glad that we have this opportunity to shed some light on what it really is like, what it's like, because no one
Hmm.
can guess. And so that is a question that I want to ask you, because I know how I drive. I drive with my left leg crossed over. How do you drive as a quadriplegic? Like, what are the adaptations that are required for you?
Well, I mean, look, let's be honest. The way you drive, I mean, you're a woman, so you probably drive really badly, right? Because that's right. Don't all
Oh,
women drive
yeah.
badly?
And we're gonna
Yeah.
meet in person, so I can give you a little slap, right?
Yeah. Okay. I was
Yeah.
just wondering, right? Because I think there's that stereotype out there. And then one
Always.
leg. Geez, you must be a really bad driver. Um, I I really hope this doesn't become a podcast and they don't understand the oozing of sarcasm.
That
But
is humor. If they
so
watch the show, I think if they watch your documentary, I think they'll get your humor. So,
I hope so. I certainly, laugh at what you can't change, right? So
Mm,
the way I drive is, and there are different ways that adaptive drivers drive. So they either use their left hand or their right hand for brake throttle, and then they use the opposite hand for steering. So I use my right hand. It's basically where my thigh is. It's a handle where I turn it for gas and I push forward for brake, and then I steer with my left hand. The opposite is true though, where you can steer with your right hand, and then there's a stick on the left hand side, which you push down for gas and push forward for brake. Push forward is always brake, right? If you think about what happens if you go, uh-oh, and you put your hand out, right, to stop
yeah.
yourself. That's the uh-oh feeling. That's very natural, very intuitive. So uh-oh and brake is always push forward. It's the mechanism of gas, of throttle, which sometimes is different. Now, to be clear, I can't say all, but most cars can be driven by both disabled and able-bodied people. So my wife still drives my car because the brake throttle attaches directly to the brake and the throttle. So she can still get in and use the car without having to do anything. There just happens to be that one little unit there that is there, that's not in any other car. But as an example, when I race, episode 4, I raced with 3 able-bodied people. I didn't race with other people for an endurance race. I didn't race with other disabled drivers, right? That would defeat the purpose of saying that it makes us equal to able-bodied people. So I raced with everybody. So that's how we drive. Now, those are my modifications. There are modifications that just go up and up and up and up from there, right? And they're adaptive vans and whatnot, where people. So when I get into a car, I get into a lower car, a sedan. I hop in, I take the wheels off, put them in the back seat, and put the body of the chair next to me in the passenger seat. Takes about 40 seconds if it's raining, 20. So I do that quickly, or my wife will put it in the back seat if she's driving with me, right? If she's in the passenger seat. Um, Again, it happens quicker than you think, right? Like it's easier to do than you think. Um, but that's where I'm wearing the shirt. That's where I applaud companies like Volkswagen, because it's a scary realm to get into, because it's such a big realm to get into. And I'm really proud of being an adaptive brand ambassador for Volkswagen, because if you can't tell, you can't really paint me to say things. I have my perspectives, and I can't be bought. Um, and so I'm not saying this because they're buying my approval. They have involved me in things like innovation. Their innovation. I'm an outsider, right? So their innovation conversations. That's big. That's really big. What we're trying to do is change perspective. Now, let's be honest about this and say it takes time to do that, right? This isn't going to go. Torsten's a brand ambassador 2025. Now everything becomes accessible 2026. In no version of the story is that ever the case. But I applaud companies that are willing to try it, that are willing to say, this is important to me, this is important to us. This is also not about disability, the aging in place and adapt, like we're living longer. We're not going to be able to use the exact same equipment. Our dexterity starts to go, right, the older we get. Well, we're going to need to address that in the automotive world. So The fact that they're taking, well, a lot of words are going through my head right now. Risk was the first one, and it's actually not a risk. It is the fact that they are taking the initiative to do that, to talk about adaptive, to represent an adaptive community is, I mean, it's big. It's such a big testament to what they're doing. And so when they called me, I was super excited, to have that conversation.
Wow. So, and just to like put some clarity to it, it was just announced, I think, in June, right? That you are their inaugural brand ambassador. And they have what is it, an accessibility program that provides about $1,000 to eligible physically handicapped drivers to make accommodations to their VW, to their vehicle.
Yep.
One, could you ever have imagined, like when you did your first track day, what you
Wait,
would be
let's go
doing
back
now?
even
Just a
further.
few.
Let's go back even further. 1996, no, 98. My first car was a Volkswagen GTI. My second car was Passat. Now let's rephrase that question and say when I was 18 years old or 17 years old, only like 4 years post-injury, did I ever think that I'd be in this scenario? No, not even this was not on my bingo card, right? Like this was not going to happen. And it's such a full circle moment, right? And Volkswagen gave the foundation a GTI. I mean,
Wow.
how cool 30 years later, or give or take, right, years later, that my first car, which interestingly enough, is my brand identity for everybody that you would talk to in high school. There are people that I've just been seeing recently that I haven't seen in 30 years that I barely really knew in high school, right? Like I knew them, small high school, but didn't. You drove that black GTI, didn't you? I'm like, this is weird because I'm now the brand ambassador, right? It's just it's so full circle and so beautiful. So no, I didn't think, let alone my first track day, let alone 30 years ago, that I thought we would be here. It's beautiful. It's the only word I can say about that.
That's incredible. And I think I have about a million questions for you. I'm not gonna necessarily torture you with all of them, but I do wonder
I'm
you
here.
thank you
You
so
can
much,
edit
by
this
the way.
all you want. So you can edit that. So you can
Edit,
ask whatever
shred it.
question.
We'll just
Yeah.
throw it all together because your honesty is amazing. You can tell that you're a very authentic person, like truly. And I think that's kind of an extra amazing thing. Like your genuine nature, it all shines through. And so, way back when, you called your the day that you became a quadriplegic, you called that the most important or the best day of your life. Do you think that you would have been able to do you think that you would have been at this point or would have been able to accomplish all these things if that hadn't happened? No.
No. Financially or like business wise, no. Relationship wise, no. Uh, Driving, no. In no world, no. And here's why. My wife pointed this out, and this is fairly interesting, is that I'm actually motivated by doing the opposite to what somebody says. And it it's obvious in the beginning of life, not so obvious at the end. So I grew up in a fortunate, not rich by any means, but well off community, in Westchester County and in Lower Connecticut. I certainly never wanted for anything. Like it was a well-to-do place. But that means that the expectations on me were, you're going to be a great student, you're going to go to a great college, you're going to great, right? That is just the bar that was set. Well, what did I do? I purposely went the other way. I literally tried to get bad grades. I tried to be bad. I was a bad kid. And I don't just mean bad as in like, haha, I did, I burned some ants with a magnifying glass. I was a bad kid. But then my accident happened. And now I'm 15 years old, and I'm told that as a quadriplegic, I will never live alone for the rest of my life. I'm told that a paraplegic is better than me, and a paraplegic, that wants to be an amputee wants to be fully able-bodied, able-bodied wants to be Arnold Schwarzenegger, and Arnold Schwarzenegger wants to be God, right? Like there's always an increase in that ladder, always a step in that ladder. You're going to tell me that I can't amount to anything. I'm going to rebel against that. So had I not had my accident, I don't think I would have had much to rebel against, appropriately speaking, right? Like it would have just been a quote unquote regular life. I don't think I would have done much. There was nothing for me to rebel against. Now that took its toll in different places, but and in a variety of ways, but it gave me something to rebel against. And I still have people saying I can't race in their race league. All right, cool. Watch. I'll effing destroy you in another race league. I'll send you my track times. I'll make you feel really bad about yourself, right? Like, and if you don't want me to race, like International GT, the league that I started with and I still race with is great. When I told them that a specific league would not let me race with them, I talked to International GT, and one of the first things I said was, you got to know that I'm in a wheelchair. And again, I'm paraphrasing here, but Julie's response was, well, that's as insignificant as the type of hair color you've got. And I was like, yeah, that's true, right? Like she's right. And she didn't care. But I mean, that was basically the end of the discussion. I was ready to talk about it more because I was ready to defend, right? And say why I needed to race. Nope, you can race with us. So there's still the people that I need to rebel against. There's still people that don't believe that we should be out on track. There's still people that don't want to instruct us. And by us, I mean disabled. There are still people who have preconceived notions. But for the most part, I'd say 95% of people out there, they're thrilled by us. They're excited to see us out there. They're champions of what we do and want to help. But without the need for me to want to prove people wrong, I don't know if I would be here.
Wow.
And by the way, I feel so bad for anyone in my sphere because to grow up, to have a child like this, right, that always wanted to rebel against anything that was said, to be married to a man who just goes, well, if they're going to tell me no, I'm going to tell them F you and I'm going to go figure it out. It's tiring for them, I'm sure. So I feel so bad for them.
I can only imagine, but I hate to say that I'm glad it happened, but I'm glad that you got motivation that directed you in ways that have benefited you in such beautiful ways. And the world. Like, honestly, you're having an incredible impact on the world. And so what's next? What is next for the Just Hands Foundation? What is next for Torsten? What's next for you as a VW ambassador? What's next? What has someone said no to something? Because I bet you got him. What's next?
Well, I mean, the problem with motorsports is that the next is so big, so broad, so far that, my dream, I want to do something like Porsche Sprint Challenge or IMSA. IMSA is basically the NASCAR, but with regular touring cars, with regular street cars on road courses. I want to go compete against the biggest and baddest and get my butt handed to me. Let's be clear. Like, I'm going to be destroyed by them, but
You're ready
I
to
don't
fail.
care. I want the opportunity to fail, right? I want the opportunity to be there. And my quote is always, I want NFL, which is not effing last. Like, that is always the goal. I just don't want to be last, right? Like, I'm cool with being second last. I just don't want to be last.
Which you haven't been, from my understanding, right?
I don't know how. I don't know why. I have never been last, and I podiumed almost every race, which I don't get it. I don't get it. It's just, it's still so weird to say that out loud. But what else is next other than, look, to me, it's about growth. And there might be stories that you'll find out sooner than later for 2026, where I want to be at other tracks, like with the foundation, not just Lime Rock. I want to grow the sport. I want to make it more visible. I want to make it more accessible to so many more people. But I also fell in love with mountain biking. And there's this thing called a bowhead mountain bike, which has, so we've now added that to the Just Hands Foundation because there is an e-assist motor. So technically our mission of making people equal through motorsports does allow mountain biking. And so we just kicked out, actually we're kicking out that program next week. But those mountain bikes, they can drop down 10-foot jumps just like an able-bodied person can. They can go on single track just like anyone else can. They're called bowheads. And these bowheads, when Christian invented them, it's not this sad sack wheelchair disability. Yes, we're doing good. He was like, screw it. I want to go mountain biking with mountain bikers, and I want to be on the exact same trails and be exact as precarious as everybody else. And he built one of the most magnificent tools that I've actually ever seen for disability. And I won't even get into the fact that they just developed a wheelchair, which I have in 31 years never said that there's a revolution in wheelchairs. And this is the first time seeing this wheelchair. I can't even fathom how beautiful and amazing their chair is. So between their mountain bike and their wheelchairs for every day, but mountain biking, my wife and I were fortunate enough to be able to go to Banff to Canada and go mountain biking for 5 days to try one of these out. And my wife and I have never, she's super active, former triathlete, former athlete, still runs 6 to 12 miles a day. Like, she's super active. We've never been able to go to the forest together. We've never been able to mountain bike together. We've never been able to take a hike together.
Wow.
And now here, and she loves being in the woods, and so do I. But it was never a thing. It was never an option, right? These bowheads, we're in the middle of this beautiful forest in Canmore, where the Olympics once were up in Canada, and in Banff together. She's not helping me. She's not supporting me. We're both ripping it on mountain bikes and doing that together. And that was special. It was really special. And so my next thing is certainly going to be with wheels, with an engine. It will for sure be continuing the foundation, Just Hands Foundation, but now adding mountain bike to it.
That's incredible. And I think you have a performance biking portion on the Just Hands website. So that is the bike that you're talking about, the wheelchair that you're talking about.
Indeed.
Yeah, the photo I'm thinking of, it's like going slalom down rocks or something. It's like, yeah, that looks like a whole lot of fun. And I'm so glad you shared that because I never think about that like, how do you go hiking or how do you go enjoy the wilderness with your wife who loves being out there like that.
Can you mountain bike?
I have a recumbent trike and it's a little rugged. I have gone on an adventure race on it before and I got stuck and it was very difficult and it was not appropriate for it. And it was like, I wanted to prove I could do it. And then I was just like very bummed out. So you have me like just thinking like the right equipment makes everything possible. I'm so thrilled
You can
that
come to us.
I would
Come to
love
us.
to.
Because I want to clarify, and you did say this in the beginning, wheelchair riders or users. I need to amend that. It's adaptive equipment. There are people that can't sit on mountain bikes because of pain or because they're amputee. Whether it's above or below the knee doesn't matter because the way you need to flex on a mountain bike for both the connection of above and below the knee makes it very precarious to get to that position to mountain bike the way you would want to mountain bike. So Just Hands, we had said, I don't care if you're in a wheelchair or not. I care if you need an adaptive experience because you can't do what able-bodied people can do, right? On a air quotes normal bike. So forget this. Forget your trike. Forget the experience you had. You're coming to us. You're doing that. You're going to have fun with us, and you're going to experience what this mountain bike's all about.
I love that. I'm so excited. I would love to do that, and I love that you're sharing your love again. You're sharing your passion about something, and I think you know what? That's part of why you're good at things because you were like, I don't know why I always place. It's like it's because you're doing what you love. Like it's infectious and it's obvious, and people obviously gravitate to it, and the people who wish to be able to do this are excited about it. You have me so excited. Like I'm absolutely thrilled. And I'm so happy that you're doing more. Like I can't believe you're doing more. Like you've already done an incredible amount for yourself and for others, but it's really cool to see what you're doing in the future. Is Amazon Prime going to be following you for a documentary on that? They should.
They're going to have to tune back in to your show to find out whether or not season 2 is happening at some point. Um, but you'll be one of the first to know. How about that?
That sounds amazing. I'm really excited for you. Now, Torsten, can you tell me what does driving mean to you?
So not race car driving, just driving in general.
Driving in general, race car driving, but driving in general, it's obviously a passion.
It's for somebody who's disabled, it is life changing. And here's why. Able-bodied people can walk to the store if they need to, or take a scooter, or take rollerblades, or take a bicycle, or take a bus, or take a cab, multiple, or a Segway if they so chose, right? If those still exist. For a disabled person, it is, I can't walk as far as you, or like push as far as somebody could walk. Buses are accessible-ish, but then putting groceries on my lap to get back again, not easy. The modes of transportation are very difficult. Getting into a high car eliminates a lot of things, so getting into friends' cars. When I have my own car, when I got my car, the world that it unlocks to be able to go to work, to be able to go see friends, to date, to go to anywhere that I want to go without worrying about the how is mind-blowing. Which again is why, when Volkswagen approached me and said, I want to do this, it was like, yes, because you're not just making a cool car cooler. You are fundamentally changing somebody's life and their life experiences and what they are allowed to do, right? That they can go to work. That's incredible. That's not something able-bodied people think about. I'm not trying to make this isn't a guilt thing. It's more just a reality thing. And that to me is what driving is. Driving is a freedom that can't be expressed until you've done it. So that's,
Wow.
yeah.
That gives me chills, and I couldn't resonate more with what you said. I feel that so much, and I think that in part, when I was injured, losing ability, losing freedom, relying on others, not being able to move or go where I want to, or if I do, having to think so strategically of like, how do I get there? What path do I take? Then the freedom of mobility it's just, it's unbelievable. And so everything you said, I feel that completely. And I think it's really beautiful that your story goes from the freedom of mobility is as you learn to relearn your body, to relearn your mobility, then the freedom of mobility that you've gained with driving, and then that you now share with other people. And now I do want to ask you, can you tell us everything now that comes with your brand ambassadorship with VW? What are you contributing to?
I mean, look, they pay me about $30 million a year. I have a
Nice.
$200 billion travel budget.
Sweet.
What am I contributing to? There's this saying that I think came out of the ADA that said, not for us, without us. And that term, if you think about it, don't develop something. I'm not going to develop feminine products without women. As much as I might be able to learn about it, I mean, jokes aside, right? Like I'm using the most extreme example. You can teach me all you want, but unless you're a woman, You can't do that, right? Like I'm not going to be able to invent something or help. I can help, I can be there with it, but I'm not going to do it. Well, the same thing goes for disability. So not for us, without us. And that's what Volkswagen is doing with me, where they're allowing me into conversations there that I can't talk about it now. It's under double secret, triple. We're going to have this explode if I told you what we're talking about. But that the fact that they're bringing us into this conversation, and not just me, right? Like a lot of people bringing us into this conversation shows that we get to contribute on so many different levels, whether it is helping Just Hands out very publicly or things like innovation and everything else in between is great. Exposure. We're not exposed, right, to a lot of things, the disability community, unless it's this pity stuff, right? And they're like, look, we checked a box. Volkswagen's not checking a freaking box. They're actually giving us exposure because it's the right thing to do. You know, it's a great story to tell, but it's also the right story to tell. That's big, right? Because they now get to expose everybody to what we do, whether it's amputee, wheelchair, or somebody that's just not that strong because they're older, or blind or deaf. Big changes.
That's huge. And that's a great point. I mean, if we're lucky, all of us will be older and all of us will require extra. So representation matters. And I'm so glad that VW is using your insight and bringing you in and providing that representation. That's awesome. Thank you so much for taking this time. I have one question for you before we leave. If there's something that you could say to someone, if there's anyone who's thinking about doing something, but they are holding back because of their ability or their age or fear, what would you say to them?
You're the only one judging yourself. Period. No one's looking at you. No one cares about you. No one's judging you. Go try that thing because you're going to fail. You know what? They're so busy thinking about themselves failing. They don't care that you failed. You care that you failed. Failure should be celebrated, not villainized. So the next thing that you want to try, the next thing that you think you can't do, you know what? Go not do it. Go try it and fail. Go fail. And you know, at the end of the day, whatever, you did it, but you don't get to say that you're a failure without failing first.
That's amazing. I feel like I have a million inspirational quotes from this whole thing. I'm going to write them all down and put them on my mirror or something. Torsten, thank you so much. I definitely hope that we can connect again with you and we hear about season 2 or learn more about your performance mountain biking and
what's this hope
whatever.
Word? It's not hope.
Let's plan
You're
it.
You're coming out and doing it. This
I'm
is not
doing
a
it.
hope. And
It's
I'm going to hold, you better not edit this out. I'm going to hold everybody on this show that's watching right now needs to hold Liv accountable to whether or not she goes with me or I'll find her a place like Rocky Mountain Adaptive or wherever you are to go do a bowhead mountain bike. So y'all better be on her butt for making sure that she does this. You don't get any excuses. So forget the word hope. It's happening.
I plan. I love it. You're holding me to it. And thank you so much for sharing other resources. On that note, we will share resources to Just Hands, to the documentary, and to also other foundations, because there are other foundations that help adaptive athletes, the Challenge Athletes Foundation. There are multiples, but we'll put all those resources down below. And I love that now there is one for motorsports and adventure mountain biking. Thanks to you. Thank you so much, Torsten. This has been a pleasure beyond words.
Absolutely. Faster and forward to everyone. Thank you, guys.
Woo!
Wow. It's amazing to see you two together and to hear this conversation, Liv. I feel like I know him now, even though I've never met him, but that's in my bucket or on my bucket list, in the bucket of things I need to do is to meet face to face with Torsten Gross. Thank you so much for chatting with him. I'm going to say, I think the thing that comes there, a lot of people have different takeaways from meeting him and hearing about his mission. in my mind, it is the spirit of possibility, but the spirit of possibility in the hands of a 15-year-old who thinks he can do anything.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he, like he says, he was a naughty kid, and he had all this rebelliousness as a kid, that he was rebelling against, doing what you're told, which is study and pay attention to your schoolwork and whatever. And so, it really is a testament to how you can turn around something so difficult when he took the life-changing moment of becoming a quadriplegic from C6 down, and people told him, you can't, I think, what was it they said? You'll never live alone. And he was like, watch me, or you'll never even put your socks on by yourself. Watch me. And obviously the magnitude of that really went from like, you'll never put your socks on yourself to beating other able-bodied race car drivers. So really, I think he shows us so much how the power of the right motivation can take you anywhere. And knowing that something is possible, having that representation is like the nugget that starts it. Because if you don't know that you can do something, if you don't think it's possible, how can you motivate yourself to do it? And maybe for some of us, it wouldn't be rebellion that is the motivator, but I truly am holding on to that nugget of like, see what's possible, open myself up to the idea that maybe there's more possible. And Torsten was holding me to it. He was like, I have to go out there and try stuff. So we'll go to the track and do track to trail, which is terrifying to me, but like, it's possible, and do it if you're scared. And then he truly leaned into the concept of failure. Like, your goal is to fail. Go out there and plan to fail, because that's where the growth is. So if you fail, you succeeded, because your goal is to fail. So I'm like, I'm so jazzed. I want to go out there and like try something new right now, or like open my mind up more to the possibilities. What's that?
Track driving?
I might do that mountain biking before track driving, but I feel like I can't say no now. I can't say no. Like, the possibilities are there.
I want to be there your first time on the track.
Oh,
track driving is one of my very favorite things. And just I think one of the things I love about it is it's the quick circuit. So, with like the track at Lime Rock is slightly over a mile. A lot of them, like the one at Coda where they shot the series, is about 4 miles long. Even at 4 miles, it feels like by the time you make that each lap, you feel a little tired, or like a little mental exhaustion. I think that 4 mile point is really where like your mind starts to wander. It's a scientific proof, that what is like a minute and a half, or a minute and 45 seconds or something. And like, of course, every traffic light is a minute and 50 seconds right at the point that your mind starts to wander.
That explains so much.
Right? And so that's why people are like, they get bored. They're looking at their phones. Like it's really hard to keep your focus for longer than that. So on a 4 mile track, especially with a lot of technical curves and technical details, which is where they shot that documentary, the mental exhaustion builds up really quick. And a place like Lime Rock, it's a short track. And so you'll be like into like 2 laps, 2.5, 3 laps, and then you're hitting that mental exhaustion. So it's a very different experience, but both of them are exhilarating. And it's one of my most favorite things, because there's a lot of physicality to it, but there's the mental game and controlling the car and really getting the car to do what it is that it does well. It really, track driving is, now he's like competing against other cars, passing and all, like, not for me. But
I'd never really watched anything that details that kind of feeling, but the series really shows you that excitement and fear of, like, I guess it's wheel to wheel, right? So like competing against someone who is next to you, and the stakes are really high. As we learn in the show, like just seeing the stakes and the repercussions that Torsten has to go through, the stakes are really high, and these are split second things. Oh my gosh, it's
Crazy,
that's
right?
next level. But I think it's so cool that Torsten has created the Just Hands Foundation to give other people the opportunity to do that they never would have dreamed.
It's also amazing that Volkswagen has tapped him as their ambassador. I have to just huge shout out to Volkswagen of America for they're doing a lot of cool things right now. They've got a lot of cool products, a lot of cool cars. They're doing a lot right now, and having Torsten Gross as their ambassador is incredible. And the driver access program is what they call it. If you buy a Volkswagen, they'll reimburse you up to $1,000 for adaptability equipment. So if you have to go and have the car retrofitted so you can drive using just your hands or something else, they will reimburse you up to $1,000, which is amazing. I've never heard of a car company that does that. And it's a really fantastic feature for people who want mobility, need mobility, and don't want to be, shut out of life by something that doesn't really need to limit you at all. It's really all about your spirit and your attitude. And I love that VW is assisting that.
100%. I love that so much. And I also love that they are doing stuff behind the scenes with Torsten. It's really cool because he shed a little light on that he's being allowed to give input into things. And so that's not the literal here's him as a brand ambassador. That's behind the scenes where they're taking into consideration his input, because as we talked about in the podcast, people don't know. I don't know what it's like to be in a wheelchair permanently. He doesn't know what it's like to be without a limb. And able-bodied people don't necessarily know our situation, and we don't know theirs because everyone's is unique. So we don't know unless we ask and unless there's representation. So I love that behind the scenes as well, VW is getting Torsten's input, and I think he mentioned others too. So they're getting that input because you can't just say, I'm going to make it an accessible vehicle, because as we talk about in the video, that's what they say in a lot of hotel rooms. And that's why you get something that's not great for everyone, because it's sort of like a blanket thing. But if you listen to people, if you watch how they use things, that makes it accessible to everyone. And that's the crazy thing about ability, is that it can change. It can change. So making their vehicles accessible to people means that it meets them at every point in their life, whether something, heaven forbid, happens to them or they just age. Making accessible vehicles is essential. And I love that VW sees that. And I hope that it impacts the things that they do from the ground up. And I love that they have the driver access program that makes their vehicles accessible to people, because it's not a niche thing to make it accessible. It's, I think, an essential thing. So it's great that they're doing that.
And
it's easy.
That's easy. That's an easy fix. That's an easy thing to do. Thank you so much.
And it's life-changing.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And thank you. I'm so glad for this opportunity.
For your interview with Torsten, for being with us here on What Drives Her or What Drives Him, the podcast that focuses on people who are changing the automotive industry from the inside. Our producer is Natalie Marola. I'm Scotty Reese, and along with Liv Leigh, our host for today, our interviewer for today. Our editor is Steph Howard. Our music is by Auto Elements. Subscribe to us anywhere you find podcasts. Subscribe to our YouTube channel so you can see our faces every week. And we will be back with another podcast next week. Thanks, everybody.
Bye.